Hello, and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. On behalf of OTC Markets and our co-host, Harbor Access, we're very pleased you joined us for the European Growth Conference. Our next presentation is from Pulsar Helium. Please note you may submit questions for the presenter in the box to the left of the slides, and you can also view a company's availability for one-on-one meetings by clicking Book a Meeting in the top toolbar. At this point, I'm very pleased to welcome Thomas Abraham James. He's the President, Chief Executive Officer, and co-founder of Pulsar Helium, which trades on the OTCQB venture market under the symbol PSRHF and on AIM under the symbol PLSR. Welcome back, Thomas.
Very nice to be back. Thank you for having me, and not to forget about the TSXV PLSR as well. So all around the world. So look, we'll go through the presentation. Pulsar Helium, as the name suggests, it's all about helium, and you're going to be hearing this word primary from me as well. Primary is important because helium at the moment is, well, global supply is dominantly helium as a byproduct of natural gas. So we look at reservoirs, so geological occurrences in the ground, where helium is the primary economic driver, where it is not a byproduct. And this is very important. I mean, this is really the mission statement for the company and why we exist. It's because at the moment for end users of helium, there's not much flexibility there. So it's as a byproduct, the end user enters into long-term take or pay contracts. And should they want more product than they have in their contract, then that becomes very challenging. And indeed, if they don't need it, then it's also a case of take it and pay. So what we hope to achieve is to get projects in Minnesota and Greenland, primary helium occurrences, and then to be able to provide some flexibility to the market. And if we really aim for the stars, then to be able to perhaps look at a spot market for helium as well, which doesn't exist at this moment in time. So that's really our mission statement. So projects in the US and Europe, and today I'm going to focus on what's called our Topaz project, which is in Minnesota, USA. This one is more advanced than our project in Greenland, which is Tunu. And we've drilled Minnesota, and the gas has flowed naturally up to surface, and we've recorded up to 14.5% helium. Now, this is very important because helium, a bit like, say, the metals, it's all about grade. You never get a pure occurrence of helium in the ground. It's always mixed with some other gas. And so the industry standard or expectation for economic viability is in the range of 0.3 to 1% helium in the raw gas stream. So for us, we've got up to 14.5. So it's the highest recorded in North America. So we're off to a tremendous start. With it too, it's worth mentioning that it's not associated with water, so it's just what we call a dry gas. And the other thing is it naturally comes to surface, so it does not need fracking or anything like that. So with it too, we've got quite a lot of activities underway. We've got an additional drill program, so drilling up to an additional 10 wells commencing at the end of this month, in fact. We've then got an agreement in place with a company called Chart Industries, which is looking at the production facility design, what would be the best solution for potential production at Topaz. Myself and my colleagues, we hold about 28% ownership in the company. So our chairman, Neil Herbert, is the second largest shareholder in the company, and I am the third largest shareholder. So we've got a very much a vested interest in the success of this company. And also helium itself is a very valuable product, small volume, high value, and certainly we have a very bullish outlook for helium's future. So it's not about party balloons, which is about 4% of market share. Important to get that one out the way. But really, it's very much the high-tech sector that uses helium. So the biggest application is in the fabrication of semiconductors, so computer chips, thinking about AI and so on. That's a big driver. Then we see MRI scanners so that the magnets can superconduct. Space launch as well, so that you keep maintaining pressure in the fuel systems. And now we talk about quantum computing, the new generation of nuclear reactors, all sorts. So a lot of demand out there. And this quote, I mean, it's quite something. Helium demand to double by 2035, tracking chip production boom. And when you consider over the past 2 decades, there have been consistent helium shortages, really the need for new sources, and in particularly primary helium is the case only intensifies. So what we've got here is pricing from around the world, and this is per metric ton of liquid helium, and you're looking at about roughly $100,000 per ton for the product. To compare that with natural gas, we've got a pricing point here of $184 per metric ton. So you can see it is very valuable. The major producers are the USA, Qatar, Algeria, and Russia. It's also it's traded globally in customized 40-foot containers, but it is worth noting that it doesn't like to go very long distance or be in those containers for very long. So the analogy I like to use is that after a couple of days, a helium balloon is shriveled up on the floor because all the helium is leaked out. And you also get that on a macro scale as well when you've got these containers under very high pressure with liquid helium, that you do see losses if it's in there for a while. So what that really means is, with the US being the largest market in the world for helium, that our project Topaz is very well placed and certainly alleviates those concerns about loss of product as well. To advance the project, it's much like any other resource, but with our project in Greenland, we're at the data collection phase. What we've done is we've identified the helium gas is there, but is yet to be drilled. Whereas Topaz in Minnesota is more advanced, it's being drilled, we have a resource, and now what we're looking to do is increase the size of that resource with the drill program that we have, and then certainly start to look at the production scenarios and off-take discussions is our objective for next year, so roughly the middle of next year. So zooming in on Topaz, we are in northern Minnesota, not too far from the Canadian border. We are the first mover in this location, so we are the only helium company in Minnesota, and really it's very exciting because this is a project which is really geared towards helium concentrations. We're certainly seeing these high concentrations. Whereas if you look at some other projects, then they're typically areas which have been quite well known and has seen a history of extraction for natural gas and or helium. Whereas this one being very new, then it's got magnificent potential. We do know that it is quite a widespread occurrence. It's not just a finite small accumulation. We know that the source rock is there and is quite extensive. We know that the trapping mechanisms are there. And we know that even 100 miles away from our project, we're still seeing 2% helium coming out of the ground. So we do not think that this is small. We think that certainly it's quite sizable. So with the key things for production of helium are electricity is your big consumable, and there are power lines near us. And then to export the product, you need a road network, and we've got a highway right next to us as well. So the two key ingredients are there. We also have supportive legislation from the state of Minnesota that was put into law last year. So key things, criteria have been met. So this is a ranking on a well-by-well basis, and you can see that our well in Minnesota has come out with the highest concentration helium in North America. And what we did is we used an independent third-party resource estimator called Sproul out of Denver to put together a resource. And what we have here is a P50 gross recoverable helium prospective resource of 0.4 billion cubic feet. Now, this is, to put this into context, the world uses 6 billion cubic feet per annum. And actually, what I'm going to do is just skip forward a couple of slides. Hopefully this works. Here we go. So the reason for jumping to this slide is these are the two wells that we've drilled called Jetstream 1 and Jetstream 2. And the resource is based only on the blue component. So that was the original depth that we drilled Jetstream number 1 in 2024. And this year we actually deepened it, which is the red component, and drilled the step out well. So the resource we're just looking at is based only on the blue. One single drill hole. In fact, you could probably call it half a drill hole because it hadn't gone to its entire depth. And we managed to get this quite sizable number based just on that. And so what Sproul also said is that the project has a 65% chance of commerciality based on half a well also. So we're very excited to see how this will change. Obviously now we've drilled an additional well, and we've got another up to 10 coming. And so really the objective is to make this number as big as we can, which is really the last outstanding piece of data that we need to then truly assess if we can go into production with Topaz. So this is the wellhead. This is what it looks like. This is Jetstream. And so it's flowed naturally and then also under compression. And what we're seeing is that with compression, we're getting 1.3 million cubic feet of gas per day. And so for those of you that want to do figure out what does that actually mean, then the math that's involved is, very crudely, you can take the flow rate, multiply it by the helium content, and then that will tell you roughly what the production capability could be on a daily basis. And then jet stream 2, we were seeing good pressure build up in jet stream 2, but then with the initial flow, it appears to be that there is some form of blockage in that well. So we're currently trying to understand exactly why that is. But seeing that pressure build up, which is actually higher than we saw in jet stream 1, is a positive sign. And it's also worth noting too that we've got gas samples soon to be received, and from both jet stream 1 and 2, and we'll certainly be sharing those with the market when received. And so now building on the success, so really these additional 10 wells, these are stepping out from jet stream number 1 and 2, and to increase the size of the resource. What we'll be doing with these will be resource wells, not production wells. They'll be for resource, and the benefit of doing that is that they are significantly cheaper. So we are financed for this drilling program. We recently raised money out of London to take care of that. And the drilling will start at the end of September, so a couple of weeks' time. And then we should have good, consistent news flow over each time we've completed a well. Then obviously update the market accordingly. And with these, we'll be doing pressure testing, gas sampling as well, and then putting downhole tools, including the optical televiewer, to get all the information we can about the reservoir. And really what we want to do is ultimately, by the middle of next year, we want to get to a point where we can say, okay, is this project ready for development to go to production? So going back to this slide here. So what we're looking at, this colorful cross-section is seismic data. And what we see is that the green is more or less where the helium bearing zone is. It's picked up quite nicely by the seismic data. And so we're using this plus other data that we've acquired, subsurface data, to guide these additional 10 wells that we're looking to drill. So they're not going in blind. We've actually got quite a lot of data, so I can confidently say that we've done what we can to de-risk these wells prior to drilling. So now zooming in on Chart Industries. So for those of you that are not familiar with Chart, a US company listed on the New York Stock Exchange. And really what they are is a leading manufacturer of industrial gas equipment. So this can range from natural gas production facilities to cylinders, to storage on a small scale and on a very large scale. And they are certainly the best at what they do, the gold standard, so to speak. And so we've signed an agreement with them, and we've updated that just the other week. And so they're starting work looking at the engineering studies for what a production facility could look like at Topaz. What's also nice about Chart is that one of their larger fabrication facilities is actually in Minnesota as well. It's only a couple of hours drive from our project. So we certainly, that aligns with our motivation to make this project as Minnesotan centric as we can. And what we're looking at too with Chart is looking at two products. So one product, of course, is the helium, and then the other product is CO2. And so CO2 is an opportunity actually to have a secondary revenue stream. And I must admit, when I first saw that there was the CO2 in the gas, my initial thoughts were that we'd have to re-inject it into the ground. But it's not the case, because there is actually an ongoing shortage of CO2, and that there is very much a demand for CO2 product. And so it certainly looks like with Chart's CO2 capture systems that we'll be able to look at monetizing the CO2 as well. And so really what the intention is, we get this work moving so that when we do complete the drilling next year, we can then get to hopefully to the investment decision for going to production, and we move forward in a timely fashion. To build a helium plant from scratch, you're looking at about 12 to 18 months, roughly. The other thing too, it's worth mentioning, is that there are a couple of other helium companies out there that have attempted to get into production, and that hasn't been so successful for them at least. So what we're looking at is with Chart, aligning ourselves with the gold standard with a plant which is fit for purpose for our project, so that we can certainly then be able to meet any production guidance that we'll have. So rather than going, I guess, with a cheaper option, we're going with a reliable option, so that any potential customers of ours could then have some degree of certainty that the product will indeed arrive. Okay, planned expansion. So we just recently announced as well that we have signed a term sheet. It's non-binding at this stage, but we've got an exclusivity period with a company called Quantum Hydrogen, and that is to acquire initially 80% of that company and then up to 100% for an all-share transaction. And so that allows us to maintain our money and focus on getting Topaz into that production potential. But this additional ground is really a great opportunity for us. It's quite a significant land area, and it's in an area that we believe to be very prospective for helium. So I guess you could consider this as potentially the company's growth. So we focus on getting Topaz online, and then with this would be what we believe to be very prospective ground to hopefully make additional new helium discoveries there as well. And being the first mover in this location in Minnesota, indeed, really this just is part of our plan of further consolidating our position, considering we have the advantage at the moment. And then our Greenland project, Tunu. And so, as I say, this one we've discovered the helium there, it exists, but it has not yet been drilled. What we have got is a company called Sproul ERCE. Their office in the Netherlands is currently just finishing up on a pre-feasibility study, and that's looking at helium production and then also with geothermal energy potential, which we know exists in that location. And we're expecting to receive that report imminently, and then we'll share that with the market as well in due course. So upcoming news flow, gas analysis for the wells that we've already drilled, rig mobilization for the upcoming 10 wells that we're looking at, and then really it was going to be a pretty constant news flow coming from the well sites. So there's a lot to look forward to. And this is really just more sort of case studies of why helium is important. Read this at your leisure, but 150 million shares on issue, market cap of about 66 million Canadian. And what we've got is we've got a number of warrants that are out there at the moment. Most of those are held by our major shareholder, who's also on the board of directors as well. So we think that they're in good, safe hands there. We've raised the cash, so we've got an US equivalent of just over 5.5 million US, and then our major shareholder base there. And so I think that I'm a very capable team, but this website's available on our, this presentation's available on our website. So perhaps I'll let you read that at your leisure, should you be interested. And I think what we'll do now, I've got, 10 minutes left. So I think I'll dedicate this time to questions. And I can see that they're all popping up on the board here, so I'll do my best to answer them all. Okay, so firstly, when is the Tunu resource report expected? It's due imminently, so I'd expect it in the next week or two. So that's the time frame that we're working to. And as soon as it's been received, then we will send a news release out to the market. So it should be any moment now. How long is drilling expected per well for the new 10-well resource well campaigns expected to be? So roughly speaking, for each well, probably take about 3 weeks to drill, roughly. And then with that, then afterwards, you'll be then looking at the testing itself. So pressure, flow, and then downhole tools. But the actual drilling process itself will be, as I say, about 3 weeks. And with each well, we're looking for them to, they could go down potentially to that 5,000 feet depth. But I'll just skip to an earlier slide where I think that's probably unnecessary to go that deep. We're probably looking at an average that is shallower than that. I'd probably say we're probably looking around about the 3,500 to 4,500 feet range in order to intersect this green area of interest, the helium-bearing zone. Tell me again, the milestone associated with middle of next year, exclamation mark. How many miles away are suitable roads and suitable power? Okay, so really the milestone that we're looking to achieve for the middle of next year is to say whether or not we can start the process of going into production. That's what we're aiming for. So with the wells that we've already drilled and the data that we've collected, we know the helium's there, we know that it flows naturally, and we just now need to know how much is there, or at least to discover enough to justify production. And that's what we're financed for, is these additional wells to drill them. And then how many miles away are suitable roads and suitable power? Suitable roads, they're 0 miles away. It's already there. So we've got a road that goes straight to our drill sites. So that one's a good tick there. And then power, the power lines, we'd need to have a spur off the existing grid. Roughly, from memory, it was about 6 to 8 miles that we're looking at away from the existing power line. So nothing terribly significant there. Did you have a mass spectrometer on site for jet stream testing and received helium concentrations during testing? What we had is, we did, yes, is the short answer. So when we've been drilling Jetstream 1, Jetstream 2, we have a mud gas logging system. So the process there is when you have water returns, or if you have gas, it'll then be detected by a mass spectrometer at surface. We actually reported the results of that to the market whilst we were drilling. So what we found with Jetstream 1 and Jetstream 2 is that we were getting multiple percent helium as we were drilling. So that was actually in the news release. So yes, we hit helium, and now what we need is there's a lot of contamination with the mud gas, that mostly from the air that we breathe. So what that will do is dilute the helium down, because there is no abundant helium in the atmosphere, so it's never going to upgrade it. It always dilutes. And so having seen those multiple percent heliums whilst drilling, it certainly gives a great deal of encouragement, and we'll get the absolute numbers from the lab, and that will be any moment now. Next question. What is the expected timeline and major milestones leading to Topaz's transition from appraisal to a development-ready stage? Really, so the timeline we're looking at is to get to that point in the middle of next year. So, less than a year from now. The major milestones are the resource size, so the drilling, getting more information on that, getting enough resource to justify production. I guess it's worth mentioning too that we're not looking for just some insignificant small production. We're actually looking at targeting something which is meaningful. And so to have meaningful production, you need to have a resource size that justifies that. So certainly with going to the effort of looking to purchase a brand new plant facility that's customized for it, we really need to have a resource that justifies that and backs it up. So that's the thought process there. And then the other things, of course, we've got engineering studies, we've got permitting, we've got all sorts of the work done by chart, and then all the economic analysis. But yeah, middle of next year is our target, is to get to that point. With production as well, so like a helium plant, you're looking at, I don't know, anywhere between 10 and 50 million US dollars for a helium plant. And what's really very pleasing and quite humbling, to be honest, is that a bank out of Michigan called University Bank has already put forward their interest in providing $12.5 million to go towards the capital cost. So it's non-binding at this stage, because we're not at that stage yet. So obviously that's one of the conditions, is that we have to be at a point where we're ready to purchase a plant. But to have this early stage interest and support from a US banking institution is wonderful, and one less thing that we need to worry about. What's the global supply demand picture for helium going forward? Global supply picture, or global supply demand. Demand looks strong. I would probably say that, because there's been these frequent outages and shortages of helium, that actually, to a degree, demand has been curtailed by supply. And I think that should there be more reliable supply of helium, it's only a very small portion of the fabrication and the technology, but a very important piece. And without any guarantee supply there or uncertainty about it, then a lot of companies would be reluctant to make that investment or become too reliable on it. So I think that should there be a more reliable source of helium, that we probably see a lot more uptake in product as well. So I see it as very positive. Okay, next question. What market factors drive Pulsar's belief in long-term bullish helium prices, and how does supply tightness affect end users in industries such as semiconductors and healthcare? The reason for being bullish is that we're seeing, more applications for helium. So that's one thing. The other thing is that helium's quite a finite product as well, and there's not many places. Not every natural gas occurrence has helium. And in terms of primary helium occurrences like we work on, there's not that many of them around the world. So there is that. We know that helium doesn't like to be transported. We know that helium production in the USA has gone down, and that we're starting to see, there's imports of helium into the USA. So all these factors, and helium not liking to travel because of the associated losses, we see that being, all of that building to being a very healthy picture for the helium market. Next question. How is the planned acquisition of Quantum Hydrogen Inc. expected to impact Pulsar's land position and resource potential in Minnesota? Well, basically, that would increase our land holding by about 1,000%. So it's meaningful, that's for sure. And we just think it's very prospective. My crystal ball, I couldn't tell you what it would do to the resource, but from us, it looks like it's very prospective ground, and we have to do the work to determine, is the helium there, and if so, how much? Okay, next question. Is there a moratorium on gas in Minnesota, and is Pulsar Helium's gas affected by this moratorium or not? There is a moratorium on production whilst the state of Minnesota puts in place its regulations. So in terms of all our exploration work, that's fine. So we can do everything in terms of drilling, seismic, etc. But in terms of production, the date that's been mentioned is May of next year to have the regulations in place by then. We will not be ready to be producing by May of next year, so I guess you could say the impact to us is non-existent. When is the company plan to release the measured resource? Okay, so I think that you might have a bit of a mineral mining background there, but for us, what we'll be looking at is we've got prospective and contingent resource, and then we'd be looking to convert to reserves. So reserves is the end goal, and in order to get to reserves, you need to have a plant design, an economic case study, and offtake agreements in place to get to that point. So work in progress. Okay, what kind of engineering and production facility partnerships, such as with Chart Industries, are vital for Pulsar's plan to deliver helium to the market? Well, look, really, Chart's the big one. So they'll be designing and then hopefully ultimately building the plant for us and commissioning it. So, they'll be doing that kind of work. And then otherwise, it's with end users for offtake agreements. So, so that's not Chart. Chart's job is to, design and build a plant. But then it'll be talking to some of these end users, AI, space launch, etc., and get the offtake agreements in place there. What type of helium does Pulsar find from current completed drills? Is it helium-3 or helium-4? It's helium-4. So helium-4 is the helium that's commonplace on Earth, and then on the Moon it's helium-3. So for us, it's helium-4. And what is the status of the state of Minnesota for permitting? Okay, I've just been through that one, so that one's already done. And in fact, I think I am more or less out of time. So before I get booted by the admin, I'd like to say thank you to everyone for listening today. I encourage you to, I'm just going to get this slide up so you can see it. I encourage you to reach out to the company. Here's all of our contact details, and either myself or someone from our team will gladly get back to you and provide you with any additional information that you need. So once again, thanks very much for your time.